The Ancient's World. Chapter 391, The Final Stretch to Grasshena 3. Sally and I are relaxing and watching the clouds pass, and with every hour that passes, we're closer to Grasshena. It's been a long road getting here, and there is still a long road ahead of us. We have countless things left to do after we're done with the Elven Kingdom. The Kingdom of Avalon is our next stop. It's time that I finally get a handle on tearing up. Sally moves closer and rests her head on my chest. Her ear over my heart. Don't think I'm weird for saying this, but I love listening to your heartbeat. It lets me know that you're real, that you're not some imagination of mine. I don't think that's weird. I'd think in a similar manner if I were in her shoes. Lived the life that she had. Something as terrible as that. My arm coils around her body, and I bring her in closer, making sure that she feels safe in my arms. I'm lucky to have found you working in that inn oh so long ago. I can't even remember the name of the city I stopped in when we met. My memory isn't perfect, and we've been through so much the last few months that I doubt I can remember half the places we've been to. I hope that doesn't make me a bad partner. Forgetting the place where we first met and talked. I remember the first time we met. You knocked on my door with some food, and when you got a whiff of me, you nearly puked. That was the day or so after a brutal battle against several enemies. She's quiet as I keep talking, and I don't know why I'm doing this. Going down memory lane is fun and all, but I don't usually do it with another person. Most of the time, it's in my head talking to myself. When I offered for you to come with me, I did so because I felt that you were a genuine person, a rarity, someone that I could end up trusting, and revealing my secret as Slayer's Earn to you was a risk. She lifts her head as I pause. Building the suspense is just cruel right now, but I'm having a bit of fun. You proved what I felt about you right when you learned about me. You didn't change. It was one of the most wonderful things I've ever seen in my entire life. There aren't people like you, Sally. I want you to know that talking about all this came out of nowhere, but it felt right. Parts of me wish that I had met Sally sooner, or in my old life as well, but the only reason I know her now is from the choices I've made, the knowledge that I've abused. You did the same for me, Sarah. You grew into someone I trust more than anyone I've ever known. You showed me there was more to my life, that I wasn't a worthless thing that people walk by. That's hard to hear. She was treated like a leper, and people don't tolerate ex-slaves, thinking them impure. Ignore that. It was not within their control or power to stop. Thanks for making me feel like I deserve life and love. Thank you so much for helping me with all this getting revenge, coming to Grasshena to face my family with me. She needn't say any of this, but I get why she is. Sally is my other half, and I never thought I'd say that about anyone in my entire life. I thought I'd be alone and riding solo. This got way sappier than it should have, but I'm glad that it did. Hearing all this, saying these things to each other, it means a lot. She leans down towards me as she finishes talking, and we find ourselves kissing again. It's funny, since she said that I wouldn't be getting any action for at least a week, but that's already gone considering what she's going to me. Hey, let's stop here before it escalates again. I talk to her between the kisses that we share, but she isn't slowing down or showing that she's even listening to me right now. Sally shows her disappointment as I gently peel her lips from mine and move her away from me. Fine, you're right. I don't even know the next time we'll have enough privacy to do what we want to each other. It could be a long time since we'll be so busy in Grasshena. She's trying her best to convince me of coming to her side of the proverbial table. All I do is smile and lay back down with my hands behind my head, looking back at the clouds about us. She releases a long sigh but finds herself back at my side. In the end, this is just as good. I couldn't agree more. I feel bad for Haley. I doubt she'll ever find someone. She's my sister, and I'm allowed to say those things about her. Speaking of Haley, she's starting to hold up better and better with the fact she knows the truth now. While I don't know her current condition, I know it's an improvement over what we were both dealing with a bit ago. She's a strong girl, and I have no doubts in my mind she'll accept it and move on, cause that's the only thing that can be done. Terox and Helda might even make up and be friends again after this quest. Who knows, but right now, there is no place to call each other friends. Not like I really should get in the middle of it. I only did so before cause it was jeopardizing the mission, but now that it's been handled, whatever's going on between them now isn't my problem. Ashburn and Melimora have been getting along, and I even think that Melimora is warming up to the idea of being with Ashburn, but I can't say for sure. Jasmine isn't someone I've given a lot of thought to lately since she hasn't caused me any problems. Same with Leela and Freskra. Funny how that works. You focus more on the people making things harder for you. Maybe that's just me. That's how it's been my entire life. Solving problems and overcoming obstacles. When we get to Greshina, will you never leave my side? Sally's sudden question pulls me from my thoughts, and I look at her. She's got a far-off look, and I can tell there is some fear. Hers is growing more the closer we get, which I understand. Since we can't find anyone to get us in, we'll just make a way in. Marcus is strong enough to melt through any type of wall, and I doubt the walls surrounding Greshina are any stronger than the ones that border the Elven Kingdom. Honey, maybe we should think about this, hey? We don't know what can of worms we're opening by doing this. My husband is trying to convince me otherwise. My children are getting farther and farther from me, and I'm not going to sit here waiting for something to come up. No, we're leaving, and we're getting into Greshina. All that Chris does is sigh and rub the back of his head. Marcus and my husband are following right behind me as we leave Gradul. Moving on foot since it's faster than riding in a carriage. I will find my 2 oldest kids, and we will be a family again. No walls or soldiers will stop that from happening anymore. Chapter 392, The Final Stretch to Greshina 4. We should be getting close to Greshina now. I can tell from how often Helda and Terox are looking out the windows and down the road. Knowing my brother, he's already thinking up a bunch of plans. Terox, have you been making what we need? The question is strange, in my opinion. Terox is in charge of making our false identities and getting us inside. Yet I've not seen her do one thing that would suggest something like that. Helda knows Terox better, so I should reserve judgment. Don't worry. I've been making them in my mind with my magic. All we need to do is pull over so I can use some magic from nature. At those very words, Helda stops the carriage and opens the door to the carriage. Terox hasn't explained her class or abilities to us, but from what I can deduce, she's a producer. Someone who makes products and is non-combative. That's my best guess with what I've learned at the moment. Finish the process and hand everyone their new identities. She speaks as she leaves the carriage, and we all follow after her. As I exit, I look up, and Sally is looking down at us from the top of the carriage. Sarah hasn't bothered to give a peek at what's happening. This process is going to take at least 2 hours to do for every one of us, so might as well get comfortable. Terox informs us of the amount of time this is going to take. Adding time to how long this trip is taking. Helda doesn't look happy with the new timetable, but that's to be expected. While they're being civil with each other, they're still far from being friends. I look towards Sally, and I notice that Sarah has finally decided to look. We make eye contact, and he smiles, nodding his head a single time to convey a form of support to me. I appreciate the gesture. Since it's going to take a bit of time, no reason not to relax while Terox does her thing. Leaving the rest of the group, I find a nice spot and make myself a campfire. Something to pass the time, not really for heat. I've become good at making fires with the few things I have to make them. After a few minutes, everyone has joined me. Well, almost everyone. Helda is off doing her own thing, and Terox is focusing on what she's doing. The rest of us are relaxing around the campfire that I made. I look to Jasmine and see she's rubbing her stomach and has the look that I've come to understand. Here, take this. I pull some food out of my inventory, and she catches it without missing a beat. Quickly digging into the food. Haley looks way better from what she used to look like a couple of days ago. She's had a rough time, and as much as I want to ask, I know that it's family business, and I shouldn't get involved. It'll be nice once we reach some civilization for a change. I'm getting really sick of being on the road and in that cramped carriage. It's starting to stink. While the majority of us are female, that doesn't mean we don't have body odor too. Mix that with the guys traveling with us, and we're going to have to set fire to the carriage after we're done with it. There isn't any magic that will get that smell out. Melimora, what's the Greshina like? I can't help asking this question. It's been asked before, but I want a better explanation. She lifts her head and stops poking the fire with a stick she's found. She adopts a thoughtful expression and thinks hard about her answer. Something that I don't see from her often. She usually has the information that you seek on demand, but she has to consider the answer this time. You're probably meaning what Greshina looks like. I nod my head, clarifying my question. We've already been told what Greshina is like, but we haven't been told about what it looks like. Greshina is probably the most beautiful city you'll ever see in your life. I heard rumors that the new kingdom of Avalon is something in itself. Can't really say if it matches up with Greshina since I've never been there. That's something to look forward to, at least. In the middle of the silence, Sarah lets out a couple of quiet chuckles. All of our attention turns to him to learn what's funny. Sorry, just some dark humor in my head. We all wait for him to explain further, but he looks surprised by this. I was just imagining what it'll look like when we're done with it. Probably on fire and broken in most places. That is dark humor, just like Haley's. Out of nowhere, all the real elves that we're traveling with start to laugh too. They start out as gentle and bubbly, but they turn into full-blown needing air laughs. Oh, God, wouldn't that be a sight? Melimora decides to chime in, and her words only make the rest of the elves laugh. Only Sally and I aren't laughing. Sarah and Haley are because that's what their humor is like, and while we all look like elves. Some of us only look this way, thanks to the potions. Never in my life would I think that Shitty City would ever have a chance to become like that. Now there is a good chance of that happening. Leela laughs harder as she talks, making everyone else laugh harder. They're all sure laughing hard, and I can even hear Melly's unique laugh among them. It must be really funny if she's letting out a good laugh like that. I'm taking a break from the large group and from being near T.A.W for so long. My anger hasn't grown, but it hasn't subsided in the slightest either. Being civil with her is the best option I have. Their laughter starts to die down, and I'm left in silence as the wind gently blows through the trees around me. I have a pretty bad headache from the horrid smell coming from the carriage. That's bad enough to make anyone squint their eyes and show their teeth as they scrunch up their faces. It's a funny thought, but one I'll not laugh at. It's been so long since the last time I was in Grasshena, and my memories of it are foggy. I was still a toddler when I went there with my parents, and now I'm centuries older. Perhaps it's best that I forgot about those times. All they would cause me now is pain. You know, there are plenty of people willing to hang out with you. I nearly jump out of my own skin at the surprise. I recognize the voice, and I turn to see Sarah. He's come alone, and why he has come is unknown to me. He walks over and takes a seat next to me. Looking out over the hill and seeing the same view I've been staring at. There are times that I need to be alone, and this seemed like the best time to do it. He nods his head, listening and not responding. Sarah doesn't go out of his way to do something like this, meaning he's worried something might happen. He needn't worry about anything. I've got my emotions under wraps, and I'll keep them that way. I can't say the same for T.A.W, but she's been doing her part too. Chapter 393, The Final Stretch to Greshina 5. Helda must be questioning why I've decided to come and visit her. She's broken off from the group ever since T.A.W joined us. I've never witnessed a friendship as old as theirs turn into one of hatred. It takes more for some and less for others. Manny, the man that is dying, is the center of this conflict. It's not his fault, though. He wishes to pass. He's old, and he's ready. T.A.W and Helda won't have the greatest relationship, and I doubt they can ever get back to a friendship they ever had before. Sitting out in the middle of the woods and avoiding everyone isn't a permanent solution to the problem at hand. Getting in the middle of this isn't what I want to do, but I don't think I have a choice anymore. She looks at me with convincing annoyance. We've moved on from our own problems. We've even grown to trust each other. I might even consider her a friend. I'm not in the mood for some talk or lecture about my issues with T.A.W. She sounds like a teenager when she puts it like that. The thought of it is even humorous. A few chuckles escape my throat, and she sighs. I understand needing to be alone, having that time to turn off your brain and ignore all your problems. What's dangerous about it is sometimes you don't want to come back. Who said anything about a lecture? All I said is what you're doing now isn't a permanent solution. A lecture is far more complex than this. My poking and prodding is starting to really annoy her. That's not what I came here to do, so I'll leave it at that. The new silence that has taken over causes her to look over in wonder. A questioning look about why I stopped talking. Hey, I'm not your dad or brother. You can hate T.A.W. for the rest of your life for all I care. In truth, all I offered was advice, and now she's doing what I needed her to do, which was think. Stubborn people seem to make up the majority of our team, and that's a problem in itself. My stubbornness has gotten in my way before, and it takes a perspective change. Stopping and taking a step back. Taking all the information in and processing it, then coming to a decision about things after you have all the pieces you need. The two clashing heads in question both jumped straight to anger and blamed each other for Manny's condition, but Helda didn't have to react the way she did. T.A.W. only responded in the way she did because of how Helda treated her. What do you know about losing someone you have? Everyone you love. If only she knew what she was saying. I've lost everyone I loved at one point, and desperation for my life to return to what it once was is what drove me here. A better life, to be sure, but one that cost billions of lives I didn't know. The consequences of actions are unpredictable. Let's pretend that I do know. Would you think I'd hate someone that was so close to me for this long? Approaching with temperance can do wonders. Temperance has a different meaning to me than what others have for it. It's caution and reservation in situations. That's my definition of temperance. No, I don't think you would, Sarah. That doesn't mean that I'm you, and you aren't me. Manny meant so much to both T.A.W. and me. Now he's run off to some corner of the world to die alone. The cynical tone in her voice doesn't slip past me. It's actually obvious with how layered it is within her words. Yeah, you're right. She turns her head fast and looks at me with a raised eyebrow. What? I just said you're right. Does that also not make you happy? The realization of what I just did sinks into her mind, and her displeasure appears on her face. I played her well there. She admitted that even if I agree with her and think she's doing the right thing, it won't make her an ounce happier or more satisfied. She feels the same way now she did a few minutes ago. You should go. I want to be alone. I've accomplished what I've come to do, and I stand up without giving any grief about T.A.W. and her anymore. The silent walk back to the camp leaves me with my scattered thoughts, and I sense that some good might come from what we talked about. T.A.W. and Helda aren't unreasonable people. If they take some time to talk without getting mad at one another, they can overcome this relatively easily. However, fresh wounds hurt more than healed scars. I really hate that guy sometimes, but in an endearing way now. I was hoping I could stay mad at her forever. Talk about childish. He just has to come in and be all logical and reasonable, making me think I went wrong in many places in my life, but I never thought I'd lose Manny, never thought I'd lose Mellimora. The same can be said with T.A.W., a hard pill to swallow. When everyone starts to leave you, that means it's you causing the problem. Mellimora is leaving me after all of this is done, and I'll be alone. God damn it, Helda. Just let go of your pride for a single moment and accept that it was your fault. I overreacted when I lashed out at T.A.W., blaming her for what happened to Manny. As I stand, I release a scream of anger and pain at my foolishness. My voice grows hoarse and ragged, and my breath runs out. Tears start flowing down my face, and I fall to my knees, clutching the grass in my hands. Dirt runs under my fingernails, and my blonde hair falls to the ground. Why am I like this? All I know how to do is push people away. No one will be with me in my life if I keep acting this way. Time passes slowly, heavier than most minutes. My pain is finally being let out. No longer suppressing it, hiding behind my pride and ego. Change isn't easy, but I have to try. It might be too damn late, but I'm going to fucking try. My pain and sadness turn into resolve. This is the start of making up a lot of mistakes. Everyone has been lively off in the distance, and it makes me feel better hearing their laughter and fun. My focus is not wavering, though. Everything is going smoothly, and I have about half of everything done. My mana is being drained by the sheer amount of work, but I have enough to get everyone. The silence is quickly broken near me, and I turn to see Helda. Her eyes are puffy, and there are dried streaks from tears running down her face. I don't really know what to say or do, and I don't think she does either. May I join you? My surprise can't be hidden, but I don't reject my adoptive sister. I nod my head, and she makes her way over and takes a seat next to me. There is an awkward silence, but she's not being hostile. She looks like she's in pain, and seeing that puts me in pain too. Chapter 394, The Final Stretch to Grasshena 6. The lack of sound is rattling me a little bit. Helda hasn't spoken. All she's done is ask if she can sit with me. I assume she's trying to find the right words. I'm not going to force her to talk. I wouldn't do that even if we were on good terms. Where do you suppose you'll go after we're done? She's giving it a shot, and that means I should too. I stop working on the false identities and give my adoptive sister my full attention, turning to her. This is the first time since Manny that she's not acting like I'm vermin. I don't know, Helda, most of my life is left behind me at this point. All I can really say is I'm looking forward to the future. She nods her head slowly and smiles awkwardly. We used to be able to talk to each other all the time, and now there is hope for that again. What about you, Helda? I know that you have plans for adventures after the Elven Kingdom is free from oppression. She looks at me, and her eyes are filled with sadness. I don't know what's brought all this on, and I don't know how to really respond. The last time I saw Helda like this was the moment Manny told her he was dying. I'm sorry, Terry, I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. It wasn't your fault. I've been a real bitch lately. There are too many things for me to apologize for. Wow, this is not what I expected to happen. Helda is stubborn when it comes to admitting she was wrong about something. I can tell that Melimora has a problem with her, and if Helda is apologizing to me, she's going to do the same for Melimora. I'm sorry too, Helda, I could have been better in the way I reacted to you. I choose to be mad and angry with you too. She turns her head down, and her chin starts to quiver. Tears well in the corner of her eyes. On the edge of falling. All I can do is reach over and wrap her in my arms. She reciprocates instantly. She gently lets her weeps out, and it's hard to hear her. I'll never hate Helda, and I'll always care about her. I'm glad that you came here, Helda. I don't ever want to be mad at you, and I don't want you to be mad at me. I try hard not to cry, but my own tears start to fall. Helda was always there for me growing up. Even until the very day that she left, she tried to always find a way to help Manny or me. God, I don't even know why you forgive me, Terry. I'm glad she's using my nickname again, which means we're really back to the way we used to be. She hugs me tighter as I rub my hand up and down her back to help calm her. She's not the only one that's made mistakes, and forgiving our loved ones for the things they've done wrong to us is important. If we didn't forgive, then everyone would be alone. Of course, I'd forgive you, Helda. You're too important to me. You're all the family I have left now. We both start crying harder after my words. While Helda has Leela and Melimora, I don't have anyone. Manny is gone now, and I thought I'd lose Helda too. Now that I know I'm not losing her, it's making my life that much better. I won't walk this life without someone to care about me and I about them. There is so much more to apologize for, and I need to say that I'm sorry for leaving you and Manny. She doesn't need to be sorry about that. When she had to flee when we were younger, that was because of the royal family coming after her. She's marked as a terrorist now, and I understood why she needed to leave. Away from us was the safest she could make us. I know, Helda, there is nothing to be sorry about. Life happens, and things get hard. My choked words come through my sobbing. We're both in the same condition here. I can't remember the last time we cried together in grief like this. Supporting each other. Last time we were beating each other up. Our crying echoes around the empty woods that we find ourselves in, and before long, we hear approaching footsteps. We both look, and Melimora is staring at us. An eyebrow raised in confusion, and Helda quickly stands up, making her way over to Melimora, wrapping her in a hug too. Melimora's shocked face tells me that Helda doing this with her rare. Seeing her cry is probably more so a what's gotten into you, Helda? You don't act like this. The nervous edge is palpable. Melimora needs an apology from Helda too. Helda cries on her shoulder, hugging her tighter as she lets out the pain she's buried. I'm sorry for never taking you into consideration, Meli. I understand now why you want to leave me. I never treated you the way I should have. I see that now. My pride blinded me. I'm so sorry. Melimora doesn't know how to react. The first thing she does is raise her arms and hug back. Melimora doesn't cry, but she looks like she's on the verge of crying. So you finally figured it out. I'm glad that you did. Now I can stop being upset at you. Her voice starts to crack, and she chokes her coming cry back down. Helda pulls away and dries her tears. Melimora does the same. This is something that I didn't think I'd ever get to see. Helda reconciling with the people she cares about most isn't what I expected this evening. While we're getting so close to Greshina too. You're my sister, Meli. I want you to know that you're my little sister, and I love you. Those are the words that crack the weakening armor of Melimora's emotions. Tears fall freely, and the cracked armor completely breaks. From the distant cries in the forest, progress is being made. Seems my talk with Helda did more good than I thought it would. What did you say to her? Leela knows Melimora, Helda, and Terox more than any of us here, and she finds what I did somewhat improbable. It had a low chance of working, but all I wanted her to do was think. That's when the most change occurs in someone. It's when they think. Thinking is just another form of changing your mind, and that's not a bad thing. That's how things change. All I did was help her take a step back and look at everything, but in a more indirect way. My wording was used in a more subtle way than what I just described. Leela just shakes her head in disbelief, and Freskra proceeds to laugh. She's the cousin of Helda and the only blood family she has left in this world. Say what you want, but the only way that Helda changes her mind is if she's convinced that she was wrong. Hey, miracles happen every day. Everyone has a good chuckle at her response. Those three will probably need a little while, so we might be here longer than we want to be. We're already so close to Greshina, but sacrificing a little more time for them is fair. I know when to stop and let others deal with their problems before moving again. Chapter 395, The Final Stretch to Greshina 7. We've decided to camp here for the night and reach Greshina first thing in the morning. Terox has finished all the fake identities that are needed to get in. Helda has made up with both Melimora and Terox, and it couldn't have happened at a better time. Being so close to Greshina means I don't need to worry about anything happening. It's hard to comprehend what goes on inside a girl's head. I've never met a species that could hold grudges for so long, but that's just their form of fighting. Men are aggressive. We like to fight and punch, and when it's done, we shake hands and sometimes become friends. Women, they scare me. I'm not the only one, but you luck out sometimes, and you find that one. The passive-aggressive nature of the women's form of fighting isn't something that I've used before, and I don't think I'll ever have the ability to do so. Where is your mind at right now? The question takes me from my thoughts, and Sally smiles as I look at her. Has she been talking this entire time? Man, that was a total guy thing. I just tuned her out. I haven't done that to her yet, and as she sees me realize what I've just done, she starts to laugh. I'm sorry, I blocked out everything and got lost in my thoughts. She starts laughing harder, and she even lets out cute little snorts. Something she hasn't done before. My surprised face at the cute sound causes her to stop and turn away from me in embarrassment. Moving closer to her, I wrap her in a hug from behind, and I see that her cheeks are becoming flushed. That was the first time I've ever heard a girl produce a snort in front of me. You've become that comfortable around me. I knew she'd grown close and comfortable with me, but not to the point she'd unconsciously let out a snort while she laughs. That means I'm doing something right, and I'm glad that I'm being successful in my first relationship. Yet I didn't mean for you to hear that it's been so long since I let out a snort that I forgot that I even did it anymore. My positive mood is instantly brought down. I wish I could change everything that's happened to her. Even at the cost of us never meeting, she deserved a better life than the one she had. You can let out as many snort as you want. You're never going to be in a place where you don't feel safe without me by your side. Sally stiffens and slowly leans into my chest, turning her head and locking her lips with mine, slowly moving them in a tantalizing pattern. Those two horn dogs have been at it for an hour. If they were going to get physical, they should have moved their damn tent further away from camp. Haley, your brother and his lover sure have a lot of stamina. Jasmine and I are trying to sleep. This important life function is being interrupted by the cries of love and satisfaction from a tent 20 feet from us. I'm guessing the rest of the camp is also growing tired of the events taking place. Don't remind me, Jasmine. I don't like the thought of my brother doing that. It makes me nauseous, so don't say anything and try to ignore it. A sibling's worst nightmare is two things: getting caught having fun in bed, and catching their sibling having fun in bed. Jasmine has a red face from the things coming in the direction of Sarah and Sally's tent, and I grow more impatient with their antics. I'm almost at my boiling point. Another cry of passion echoes into the night, and my patience has run out. Will you two stop and let the rest of us sleep? I scream at the top of my lungs, and all the noise coming from the two stops. I'm glad that Haley has said something, albeit really loudly, but I'm grateful nonetheless. I wonder where they get the confidence to try that in a camp where everyone would be able to hear them. I'm in my tent alone tonight, and I was hoping to replenish more mana in my sleep. So far, that hasn't been possible. Now that they're quiet, it is possible. I remember my nights of passion with the passing friends that I've made over the years, but I don't think I've ever made sounds like that. Sally is a lucky woman, and I can only hope that I find a man that treats me like Sarah treats her. From what I've learned about Sally, she deserves something good in her life. Retribution for all the shit she went through in her early life. My eyes close tightly, and I find my energy quickly disappearing. Sleep creeps on me fast, and I'm in that weird area that isn't quite asleep but no longer awake. The state right before you knock out. All the work I've done today will pay off when we reach the gate. My work is perfect, and everyone's false identities won't be flagged. Hearing them go at it for so long has made me what you'd call encouraged. It's been so long since I've felt the touch of a man, and hearing Sally has made me desire for satisfaction of my own. It's too bad that I don't have anyone to help me with that. I know we're close, but get your hands out of your pants. Melly calls me out, and I find myself less embarrassed than I should be. My hands exit my pants in a timely manner, and I look at the new sticky substance that covers my fingers. You're lucky, Melly. Soon, you and Ashburn won't be able to keep your hands off each other. You'll understand why it's needed because you've never had it. She rolls on her side and looks at me with a crooked eyebrow. I can't help smiling, and it's hard knowing that Melly will probably leave with Ashburn, even if she doesn't realize it yet. She's grown sweet on him, growing fonder of the idea of spending time with him as more than just friends. Sometimes it just takes time. I don't know where you get such crazy ideas. She quickly turns back around, but her tone is noted embarrassed. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! I did it again. I got carried away and forgot that we're not alone. My eyes are glued on the half grin on Sarah's face. You could have said something about me being too loud. I let out a yelling whisper as I smack his shoulder, but it's like slapping steel, and I hurt my hand more than him. He shrugs his shoulders and tilts his head to one side. I was enjoying those. Why would I want you to stop them? The rest are just jealous they don't have anyone to do what we're doing. This idiot. I can't help from smacking him again, and this time it's on the top of his head. Again, I hurt myself more than him, but he's getting the idea. He scoots closer, leans against my side, and wraps me in a one-armed hug. How about next time I make all the noise? This. Ugh. He's an idiot. Chapter 396, The Gates of Greshina. My eyes are easy to open, and the weight of Sally tells me she has decided to use me as a body pillow instead of sleeping as a person should. I look at the clock next to my minimap, and it's almost 6:30 a.m. We'll be reaching the gates of Greshina today, and this will be the first and last time I ever see the capital of the Elven Kingdom. Once we're done here, I have no intention of ever returning to this isolated society. Sally gently falls off my body as I lean up and roll my neck, flexing my back and getting some movement in my shoulders. She finds a stray blanket and squeezes that in a hug. Might as well let her sleep a little longer. I exit the tent and look towards the campfire. It's already lit, and my sister is occupying the company of Jasmine and Melimora. My approach is met with a hateful glare that I regularly get from my sister. Melimora and Jasmine don't act in such a way. It's more they've chosen to ignore me outright. You have no tact whatsoever, you absolute dumbass. Haley is already leaning into me about what Sally and I got up to last night. I take a seat next to her, and her disapproval continues to grow as I don't respond. What do you want me to say? We got carried away, and there isn't much else I can say. Besides, it's not like you saw us. All you heard was noise. I think you just need to get over it. She grits her teeth and scowls at me, balling her fist at the same time. She nearly brings it back to lay a punch on me, but she regains her cool and takes a couple of deep breaths. No matter how old you get, your siblings know how to push your buttons just right. That's not the point, you buffoon. There are times to do it, and there aren't. You need to learn that. She brings up a good point, but I meant what I said. We just got carried away. It happens when you're having fun with the one you love, and that's not a bad thing. It's my opinion that you shouldn't get in trouble for having fun. We were in a tent and had privacy. Oh, quit giving me shit. It's going to happen again, and I have no intentions of apologizing for enjoying my time with Sally. You'll just have to get over it. My sister looks at me with a look I haven't seen before. It's almost like she's embarrassed that I'm her brother, and I have such an outlook. That she's ashamed to even be related to me at this moment. It's hilarious. If you keep doing this I'm gonna you're gonna. She can't find the right words, and I give her a teasing and victorious look, showing that I've won this battle. She's not happy with my look, not one bit. I'm gonna tell Mom and Dad what you've been doing. You know Mom would flip out and nag and punish you until the day you die. Wow, she's actually threatening to tell on me to our parents? What are we, 12? I fold my arms and squint my eyes. She's not the only one with dirt that our parents don't know about. Haley has a look of victory, and it ticks me off. Her reaction soon changes as she sees my smile grow across my lips. Yeah, two can play that game, sister. I wonder what Dad would think about New Year's Eve. She goes pale and loses all her energy. Haley is the apple of Dad's eye, and if he knew some of the things she's done in her youth, then he'd be disappointed too. How the hell does he know about that day? Shit. 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 Okay, I promise not to say anything to Mom and Dad if you don't say anything about New Year's Eve. I hate sounding like this. Begging for mercy, but it dawns on me thanks to his future knowledge, he has a super unfair advantage. His smile widens as he sees me realize that. Ugh, I'll never be able to win again. Not with everything that he knows. He knows things about me that I never revealed. All thanks to knowing the future me that probably let everything be known when she became a crack whore and prostitute. You got yourself a deal, but if they ever do find out, you can bet your ass that I know a lot more than just New Year's Eve. My temple flexes. The clenching of my jaw is obvious, and my pride has been wounded more than I can remember in recent memory. His damn knowledge of the future will be impossible to defeat. You two are the strangest siblings I've ever met. Maybe it's because I'm an elf and our families work differently. Melimora breaks the silence with an observation. I'm still mad with Sarah, but me being loud isn't directly his fault. It is indirectly. I can't help it, not with the way he makes me feel. Still mad about last night. He's laying next to me, and normally I would be snuggled up with him. I lightly nod my head, and he leans up and scoots closer to me, wrapping an arm around me and hugging me gently. He kisses the side of my head, and my anger is quickly dissipating against my will. I'm sorry, I should have thought more clearly about everything. I got too excited last night, and I know better than to do that in an instant. All my frustration is gone, and I'm fully leaning back into him. It makes me feel good knowing he gets excited with me. He cares about me that much and loves to be with me in an intimate way that much. It's not all your fault, it's 50/50ths, and I'm sorry too. I should have known better, but I didn't want to stop either. He smiles a way that he only does with me. A slight head tilts as he does so. Before we can close in on a kiss, he looks forward with a serious expression. Massive walls come into view, and a gate stops from letting people in. Greshina. This is where the culmination of our long journey together has brought us. We've made it. I make sure that my voice is loud enough to be heard by the people in the carriage. Both doors swing open, and everyone is popping their heads out to see. The pearl white color of the walls takes most of my attention. Sunlight is hitting it at an angle and making it shimmer like diamonds. Wow, to think that such a beautiful wall protects horrible people. Sally surprises me with the crudeness of her words, but they're not unjustified. I agree with her statement, and it's almost poetic. Sally unconsciously grips my arms tighter and tighter as we edge closer to the gate. Terox and Helda sit in the driver's seat, ready with everyone's identification. The false IDs that Terox made are masterpieces in my book. The Elven Kingdom uses an old method of ID, and it's similar to what we had on Earth in the 21st century. The Orvalo family and the royal family are here. Our enemies. The fight coming in the following days will be hard. Chapter 397, Security Check. The Grasshena Elven Security Force is already making its way towards us, and we haven't even reached the gates yet. Terox and Helda are prepared to do everything, and all the rest of us have to do is sit back and enjoy the show. The carriage is stopped by the security, and the leader makes his way towards Terox and Helda since they're in the driver's seat. My eyes take in the ornate designs of their armors, and they sparkle in the sunlight just like the walls. The majority of them are male, and the ones that aren't are magical puppets. Elven society must not want females working in the guard. It's that, or there are no female elves in this squad. Hand over all your IDs and step out of the carriage for inspection. To be expected. The scene that I watch play out below me is almost funny. The surprised look on the leader's face is one I've not seen on a supposed dignified elf. What's causing such a look is the number of people coming out of the carriage. It's like a medieval clown car. I take it that you're not the wealthiest citizens. His voice is even and almost neutral. There is a very slight hint of condensation. Sally is nervous, but she's doing a damn good job of trying to hide it. If they don't deliberately look for it, they won't see that she's nervous. The two on the top of the carriage, come down and stand in line with the rest of your friends. We'll commence the search of the carriage while we check IDs. After I easily hop off, I make sure to lend a hand to Sally. We make our way and stand in line, and Haley in on my left and Sally on my right. We're at the very end. Terox hands over all our IDs, and the leader starts to inspect them as they rummage through the carriage. From these IDs, they claim that you're modest nobles, and judging how you got here. I'd say that you were poor. He starts to critique and judge the IDs, making things far more difficult than they need to be. Mainly by being a righteous ass. Once the inspection is done, you'll be free to enter the city. However, you'll have to leave your carriage outside. Having such a rickety piece of junk seen on the streets of our city isn't good. Not any of us has said 2 words to the man, and that's because Helda said it's better just to let them talk. We all watch as they finish with the inspection of the carriage. There is one last thing, and that's the entrance fee to enter the city. Since there are so many people, the tax will be larger. Helda looks at the man in frustration. This wasn't a part of the discussion we had about getting in. We're being extorted. My bet, it'll be a lot of money. Should have expected the guardsmen to be the ones to extort money from people like us. How much are we talking? I only have a limited supply of funds, and it'll be bad if Sarah or Haley just take money out of their inventories. That'll give us away instantly. The guards take a moment and whisper to each other. They're discussing the price and likely the cut too. Our kingdom uses the same currency outside the walls. For you to enter Greshina, it'll cost 100 gold. What? That's insane. I don't keep that kind of money on hand. Since it looks like you can pay it, we'll take the carriage and dismantle it for its magical parts and enchantments. As much as I want to say no, all I can do is nod my head. Not wanting to piss these guys off and make things harder, I nod my head, and they step aside and let us through the gate. We're a big group, and we'll need a base of operations. I know just the place where we can have discussions and be unbothered. Alright, everyone, follow me. I have a safe house in Grasshena. Once there, we can talk. I didn't know it'd feel this long getting here. It's easier being in this city than I thought it'd be, and I have all my new friends and loved ones to thank for that. Sarah, especially, he's taught me how to be strong and stand up for myself. What I find most irritating is all the looks that Sarah is garnering in his elven form. Even men are stopping to take a look at him. He's beautiful in an elven way. While I really like how Sarah looks, I prefer his human features over everything else. He doesn't draw such attention unless someone takes the time to actually look at his attractive features. His elven features are anything but subtle. We'll be reaching the safe house soon. The last time I used this was I don't remember, it's been centuries I bet. Helda was branded a terrorist. It'd be hard for her to come back, but she's being a bit too optimistic. The place has probably already been sold to someone else in all this time. We come to a regular looking house in a regular neighborhood. This is it. It'll be pretty much empty. No beds, nowhere to sit other than the ground, but it's safe. Helda has really come through so much. Everyone is settling in for the time being, and that's because we're going to be staying here our entire time that we're here. Knowing my brother, he probably wants to start planning and moving on everything right away. Before we can do all that, we need to take a day to recharge our proverbial batteries. We've been on the road for so long. We need a break. My eyes land on my brother, and he has the same look he has when he's planning something. Probably using some future knowledge, he might have. But he doesn't know everything. I want to talk to you for a minute, brother. He raises his head in a manner that is annoyed at me. He's just going to have to deal with it for now. He can think of as many plans he wants while we're resting a bit. He stands next to me as we enter a room that is secluded and far enough away from everyone. I know you want to get started, but we all need a break for being on the move for so long. Give us until tomorrow, and we'll all be ready. He doesn't look happy but leaves and finds Sally. We're getting closer by the day, and from the magical item, they've stopped in a location. They must have arrived in Grasshena, and now they're staying put to plan something. Marcus shifts on my back slightly, and I move him to get in a more comfortable position. Marcus is sleeping on my back as we move on the road. Chris walks by my side and holds my hand. Do you think they've changed at all? It feels like we've been apart from them for a long time, longer than I ever wanted to be apart from any of my kids. My question sinks into Chris, and after a few seconds of silence, he smiles and leans over to kiss the side of my head. Chapter 398, Greshina, larger than imagined. Since everyone wants to take a break and recharge after the long trip here, I should find something to pass the time. There are many things I can do, but the first thing I'm doing is taking a walk around Grasshena. Getting a look and gathering information is important, and I'd like to see what we're up against in the sheer size of Grasshena. The walk to get to this safe house revealed the advanced magical nature of the Elven Kingdom. There were floating buildings and teleporters connecting parts of the city. My desires to scout out the city are being halted, and the cause of this halt is Sally. I know she's strong, but being here is making her nervous. There comes a point that I can't baby her, even though I'll always be there for her. She needs to face things on her own. She can fall back on me, but facing her fears head-on is the best course for her. I stand up from my spot on the floor in our bedroom, and she looks at me as I walk towards the door. "Where are you going?" She's fast to ask, and I turn to look at her. She has slight desperation in her eyes, which only reaffirms that I must do this. "I'm going out into the city to look around, and I'm doing it alone. This is going to be a hard time for you, Sally. I'm going to push you out into a place that I haven't yet." The way she looks at me pierces my heart. Not a look of betrayal, but one of doubt in me. I exit our room, but she does not follow. Meaning that she understands everything I just said and is facing her fear. I'm proud of her for that, and she'll come out stronger from it. I pass the living room, and Haley sees me. She almost stands up, but I hold my hand out to her and shake my head a single time. My sister knows what I mean, and she sits back down. Once outside, I take a deep breath and place my hood over my head, covering my face and making sure I don't draw any attention. The best place to get information is where guards and officials get drunk. To the tavern it is with a destination in mind. I start walking the streets of Greshina, following the same path that I used to reach the safe house. It's the one I'm familiar with, and we passed several taverns on the way. After a few minutes of walking, I make it to a rather full tavern. I enter, and the distinct scent of alcohol fills my nose. It's not the cheap kind I've smelled in other places, but it'll have the same effect. I take a quick gander as I find a place to sit. Taking in the people here. There are many guards, and even more so, they're getting wasted. Some are talking and celebrating loudly, and others are near blind drunk. Asking security questions will get me in trouble. That doesn't mean I can't be subtle about it. The best method in this situation is to ask for stories of past events of danger within Greshina. I can gain insight from that. I get why he's left me on my own. He's trying to toughen me up, and I'm glad that he's pushing me like this. I've been dominated by my fear my entire life, and ever since I met Sarah, I've leaned on his power. Leaned on him. He's building me up, preparing me for our inevitable contact with my family. It's hard being away from him, though. Sitting alone in this room is bringing me down, and I don't like feeling this way. Jumping into the deep end might be your best bet. Haley's voice fills the room, and I look towards the doorway and see her. Thinking about what to do to get over your fear. Processing the two things she said, I slowly nod my head, and she smiles. She makes her way over and takes a seat next to me, releasing a long sigh as she does. "What you need to do is put on your hood and walk around Greshina. That's the most effective way for you to do this, and I can also braid your hair to help hide it." Her suggestion isn't without reason, but I don't think I can do that. But if I can't, it proves that I'm not ready. Before I can even answer, she's already behind me and braiding my hair. We both look like elves and have similar colored hair. Mine is longer than hers, though. This is the first time I've gotten to braid another girl's hair before. It's like you're the sister I never had. My body goes a little stiff at that. The implications mean she sees me as her sister. She slowly runs her fingers through my hair and gently braids them. I don't know how to braid hair, I was never taught, and I didn't take the time to learn. I decide to start talking too, and she stays quiet as I do. Did your mom teach you? There are so many things I wanted my mom to teach me. Things that I don't think I can learn without a mom. Haley is going extra slow as to buy me time to help steal myself from leaving and walking around Grasshena alone. My mom showed me when I was young. I've bought as much time as I can for Sally, but now she's heading out that door on her own too. She walks with heavy steps and tries to make it to the door. After a few seconds, she opens it and leaves the safe house, closing it behind her. She doesn't know, but that's an incredible accomplishment. Helda stands next to me in the living room. It's only her, T.A.W, myself in the living room at the moment. Sarah was right to leave her here by herself, and you were right to go up there and motivate her. I don't think Sarah is strong enough to push Sally that hard. To force her so far out of her comfort zone. T.A.W speaks this time, and her observation is flawed but has valid points. Sarah does what he thinks is necessary for anyone, and that includes Sally. I won't deny he has a soft spot for her, but that not like it's unwarranted. Sally is special, and I'd baby her too. She's strong enough to protect herself. All she needs is the confidence to use that power, and when she has it, I don't think anyone will make her scared again. I truly believe that about Sally. She's a fantastic woman, and I know that one day I'll be calling her my sister, and Mom and Dad will be calling her daughter. When do you suppose either of them will be back? We're supposed to be taking a break after all. Helda brings up a good point, and knowing Sarah, he'll be out for a while. Sally, maybe an hour or two. She's not ready for all-night outings. Chapter 399, Sally's Strength. Never in my life did I think I'd ever come to the capital city of my people. Let alone come here to take revenge for all the horrible things done to my mother and me. The streets are slowly starting to empty, and I can say with glee that no one has bothered me. I haven't even been spared a look by anyone. People are too busy getting home, getting drunk, or both. Sarah is somewhere around the city, and being the man he is, he's probably trying to find information about this place while we're here. Sarah pushing me to do this was unexpected and a surprise, but Sarah doing this shows me that he thinks I'm ready to face this demon in my past. It means more to me than he'll ever really know. Haley gave me some needed help, and I'm grateful for her help. Haley accepting me as her future sister hit me deeper in the heart than I thought anything like that would. Being accepted by a man was something I didn't think I'd have, let alone his family. Goes to show there is someone out there for everyone. My cynical opinion towards those words has disappeared. Mom would have known all about Greshina since she grew up here. The Orvelo family is one of the wealthiest families in the Elven Kingdom. My life was hell because of my family condemning my mother to a horrid fate for something she didn't even have a choice in. My anger and resentment start to grow at the thought of them. I don't even know what they look like, and I plan to burn their faces in my memory before I kill them. I want to savor the look of defeat and disbelief of the granddaughter coming back for revenge against the family. I shouldn't think like this, but I can't help it. I hate them. I'm not this type of person, but I feel what I feel. In my opinion, the royal family isn't as important to take out. Helda, T.A.W, Haley, Jasmine, Ashburn, Leela, and Freskra will be handling the royal family. Sarah and I will be heading to my family's estate once we have all we need. I wonder if you'd be proud of my decisions, Mom. I know she'd be proud of who I am, but I don't know she'd feel about what I plan to do with the Orvelos. My resolve grows every passing minute. I think about my life and how it all goes back to my family. I'm stopping. Stopping being scared and afraid. I'm not going to be this way anymore. I have power, and I can kill those that threaten me now. My legacy class Winter's Wrath is a perfect example of my new power. Sarah and Sally have been gone for a long time now, and Sally has broken my expectation about how long she can stay out there on her own. What do you think they're doing, Haley? Jasmine's question is one that's been on my mind too. Sarah is probably learning all he can about this place, and Sally is doing something to help her get over her fear. Jasmine hasn't had many opportunities to have fun in the bigger cities we've been to, so an idea strikes me. Want to go and find out? She looks at me in confusion. Along with everyone else in the room. The last time we got to have any fun in a big city was before I left to kill the James family. She looks to the side, giving the idea some thought. Not everything has to be done, but I thought I should offer. Can we stop off somewhere and get something to eat? Why is food always on her mind? It doesn't make any sense to me, cause I'd love to try some actual elven food. I heard it's some of the best in all of Gaia. I wouldn't know, and I doubt it's better from the food players from Earth make. As I stand up, she does so too. Helda looks like she wants to say something, but Terox places her hand on her shoulder and shakes her head. They're big girls, Helda, let them go out and have some fun before tomorrow. There is a lot to do. When she puts it like that, I want to leave even faster. Not wasting a moment more, I leave the safe house with Jasmine in tail. We start off by following the path we used to get to the safe house. I saw some food shops and restaurants on the way in, and the food coming from them was great. While we walk, the streets are becoming more and more empty, and the only ones out now are guards and drunks coming from the taverns. We make it to a place to get some food, but they're already closed. It sucks, but not all hope is lost. If a tavern is open, then that means they're selling food too. We get in the closest tavern and make our way through the crowd and to the counter. What'll the two ladies have? The bartender doesn't sound like what an elf would, but he looks like one. Not questioning anything, we look at the menu quickly and order. I've learned pretty much everything I can from these pitiful drunks, and it's time for me to take my leave. I exit the tavern and start walking down the street. There are old passages that lead under the city, maybe there are some that lead under the palace. It's a possibility. If such tunnels existed, it'd be a whole lot easier getting into the palace. That's what I learned from Haley and her group going to attack the royal family. Sally and I are taking on the Orvalos, and sadly, I couldn't get any useful information on how to get into the estate without tripping any alarms. I'll have to do some scouting at the location tomorrow. It's getting too late to do it now before I can continue my train of thought. I hear screams down an alley up ahead, and they sound like they're coming from men. No one is around to listen to them, so I decide to take a look for myself. To my surprise, I see a hooded female over the brutally dismembered bodies of who I assume are sexual deviants. My eyes instantly know who it is. I can tell by the shape of her figure and her butt. Sally doing something like this is out of the ordinary, but I approve. It's what she needs, and people would complain that it's senseless violence, but Sally wouldn't kill them if they didn't try something. I lean against the wall and just watch her from afar. She's breathing heavy, and it's probably from adrenaline. She's done an intense act, but it's good she's not puking. She showed no mercy to the James family, and I'm glad to see that she doesn't show mercy to people who are similar in nature to that disgusting family. She sheaths her blade and turns around to see me, and she flinches slightly, and after a second, she recognizes my figure too. Sarah? What are you doing here? She sounds different, more confidence in her. Sally has steeled herself for what's to come, and I'm glad to see her trusting her own power as I do. Now that she genuinely knows she's strong without me by her side, she'll be less dependent on me when we face her family. I'll be there to fall back on, but she can stand on her own and face them now. Chapter 400, Sally's Confidence. Sarah has yet to answer, and he looks towards the corpse of the men that tried to take advantage of me. He stops leaning against the wall and makes his way over to me. He stands in front of me and wraps his arms around me. I'm more and more proud of you every time I see you conquer the demons in your head. I drop my blade and hug him back. Burying my face in his chest, a calmness washes over me, helping me relax. I don't feel guilty after killing these men, and I know I won't regret it. His chin rests on the top of my head, and I hug him tighter. After a couple of seconds, we pull away, and he looks down at me. Want to go back? I've had enough of Greshina for the day. He takes my hand and pulls me alongside him after I nod my head. The night has fallen over Greshina, and the lamp posts are the only things lighting the path back to the safe house. You aren't going to ask me about it more. I can't help wondering why he isn't digging more, but Sarah is always on my side. No matter what, he's fine with the murder of those deserving. He shakes his head a single time and gives me a crooked smile. He pulls me closer and slings his arm over my shoulders, bringing the sides of our bodies together. I've known you had the strength all along, Sally. You just needed some time and encouragement to bring it out. I do not need to ask about something I already know. His words are honey for my heart. Sarah is more than just my boyfriend, and I'll be spending the rest of my life with him. He's my soulmate. Thanks for always believing in me and giving me time to do it. The little push you gave me today was all I needed. My past is behind me now, and I'm leaving all the painful memories in that past. Once we're done with the Orvalos, my old life will be over. We walk all the way back to the safe house in content silence, and when we enter the place, we're all staying. I notice that Haley and Jasmine are not here. Sarah sees the same thing but isn't worried about them like I am. I shouldn't be worried. Haley is strong enough to kill anyone in Grasshena except for Sarah. Being Sarah's sister means she has some of the same personality qualities as her. Helda and Terox are silently playing the card game The Shattering. It's a very popular card game that came out the same time the players arrived. I no longer refer to them as new people since that's not what they are. Mind if I play next? I love The Shattering, and I rarely lose. Sarah smiles and lets me go and heads to our room by himself. I don't feel like I need to be glued to him, that I'm perfectly okay here on my own. Well, come over and join us. She's about to lose her third game in a row. Helda gives a hard glare towards Terox, but all she does is laugh at the intense look. Helda is competitive, even if she doesn't want to admit it. It's going to be fun playing against these two. The lack of a bed is starting to bother me, but the furs and blankets put enough of a cushion between me and the ground. Oh, Kmin. How is that even possible? You shouldn't have a deck or cards this fucking good. They sound like they're having fun, and I'm glad that I don't have to be there for Sally to have it. She's grown far more than I ever thought from that scared woman I met back then. I don't even remember the name of the city I found her in. All I remember is it was after a long and grueling battle against monsters that were from the underworld. It feels like that was so long ago. It's just what I feel, and I don't know if time has gone by as fast as I think it has. Haley and Jasmine were a surprise in all this, and I didn't think I'd see my sister for many years. To be reunited because of the horrid family of James is ironic in a sick regard. This is complete bullshit. She has to be cheating. She's won 6 games in a row. A loud laugh comes from Sally that is heard from even where I'm at. The Shattering was a game that I enjoyed in my past life, but I grew tired of it, and it's not like it's all that important this time around. I hear the door open and close from my room and 2 sets of footsteps. Look who's finally come home. Did you guys have fun? Sally is the one to speak this time, and this lets me know that Haley and Jasmine are back. Whatever they did for fun out there, I hope it doesn't come back to bite us. The same goes for what Sally pulled in that alley. Those bodies will be found, and I wouldn't be surprised if an investigation started. We didn't leave any traces of us being there, and Sally made sure she didn't forget her blade. She'll grow in her confidence, and soon, she'll go out of her way to protect people. It'll be a great day when she dons her blade in class for those reasons. To kill those that aren't worthy of life. Many would condemn such thinking, but there are people out there that are so sick and cruel they shouldn't be considered mortal. Putting them down like the animals they act like is only right. It needs to be done, and I'm happy to do it when the situation calls for it. I never knew how great Sally is at the Shattering, and I can't understand how she's always winning with a deck that isn't that good. Ugh. I give up. I can't beat her. Tarok stands up and leaves the table, and Helda is quick to fill her place as a new game starts. Somehow, this has turned into something far more competitive than it should have been. I don't have much room to talk, not after all the crap I start with my brother. So I'll enjoy the games, and the banter is entertaining enough for me. I've got the winner. Jasmine pops her head out of the hallway close to our room, and Helda doesn't even acknowledge her since she's so focused on the game. Sally is nice enough to confirm the call out. My brother is strangely unpresent, not to mention how outgoing and confident Sally has become. She really made a giant leap in confidence and personal strength out there by herself. You always play Dreadwisp after the fourth card, you're terrible at the shattering. Sally actually mocks Helda. This rare and never-before-seen event actually stumps Helda in her tracks and causes her to stare at Sally like she's a deer caught in the headlights. The best part is how Helda can't think of anything to say in return since everything that Sally just said is true. She grits her teeth and focuses back on her cards, trying to find a winning strategy. This is better than TV, but it's been too long to say that for sure.